All right, we're back. Hello, everyone.
Howdy.
So it's been a couple of weeks since we last paired.
Has it been that
Luckily,
long? Time flies.
yeah, time flies. I think it's been almost that long. Hey, Astrid,
Hey, Astrid.
nice to see you. But luckily, we left ourselves a breadcrumb, so we'll pick that up. One thing I wanted to announce is in my community, my Discord community. We one of the things we do is we have a weekly book club discussion, and so we just finished the Learning Domain Driven Design book, and so now we're currently voting for the next book. Voting will take place for the next few days, and then we'll decide on a book, and then we will read and discuss that book. So if you're interested in joining that, go ahead, and if you're not already part of the Discord, you can join the Discord. If you are a part of the Discord and you're not in the book club, there's no charge. I just need you to send me a direct message so I can verify that you're a real person. And then you'll have access to the book club. Even if you can't make the Sunday live discussions that we do on Zoom, so we spend 2 hours on Sunday mornings, actually during this exact time slot. So whatever time this is for you, this is when the book club would meet. If you're not, even if you can't always make it, I always encourage you to come anyway. Even if you've fallen behind the reading, come anyway. Really, it's very, very low formality kind of thing. You can just chill and listen and lurk, or you can participate. Really, it's mostly about having people figure out, what the book says. We pretty much read a chapter a week, so not a lot of reading required. But I also really want folks to use the book also as fodder for discussion about other things that are going on in your professional life. Hey, Dudaman. So again, join the Discord if you're not already part of it. If you're not already part of the book club, there's a special channel for that. Go ahead and send me a direct message. And we are now currently voting for a book. There's, I think, 19 choices. It's not always easy to choose, but as Mike can probably tell you, but do your best. So, all right, that's a little, get that out of the way. So, yeah. So, what's going on, Mike? What's going on with song themes?
Well, like you, it's been a couple weeks, and I haven't looked at it at all. So we're doing this cold turkey, if you will, or whatever the inverse of cold turkey is. Now that I think about it,
Going in cold, I think, is the right term.
going in cold, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't remember, but we looks like we left ourselves a little breadcrumb here, and we also probably have a failing test, but I don't know. Let's run the test and see. I know since last time you updated, popped in and updated the spring version, if I remember correctly.
Yes, so it's, in fact, we can do it. We'll probably want to upgrade again. Nothing urgent there because 3.2.2 was just released this past week, so we'll upgrade to that. But these are all minor upgrades, so shouldn't affect us too much. But you could probably check off. You could either check off 39 or you could change it to upgrade to 3.2.2. Depends on if you want that dopamine hit or not of checking something off.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Let's honor the dopamine. Cool. And I think we had a build fail, or either a build or a run fail. Run fail.
Yes. So we have a we have 2 tests failing, and I think it's so one of the things we did, and I think we finished this off last time, was we were adding more attributes to our song. So we have artist, song title, release type, and then themes. And so the thing we finished off was refactoring that. So I think we can actually call that done, because we did that because we wanted to now import from your spreadsheets. So
Right.
I think we can
We
call
have it.
37 done.
We have an import. Ah, here it is, way down here.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's UI part of it, but we can just move
Well,
the
as part of that, I
down.
mean, whether you call it UI or not,
Right,
we always said we're going to do the subcutaneous part, which is because the
right,
UI is basically here's a big text box, and that's it. We're not doing file uploads just yet.
right. Let's see. Are we adding songs via bulk load? I don't think we can check that off, but the one up
That we
here
can't
we
check off.
can.
37 I think we can check off because
Yeah,
we have modified song to have additional attributes.
and this failing test is failing on the parsing, not on the adding attributes.
Correct.
Okay, so
And we might want to revisit, since I think from last time I claimed that Excel could easily export to CSV using double quotes around fields.
ah,
Apparently, that was a lie.
a
Um,
lie.
and so I don't think that'll make too much of a difference from our implementation, because we're
If
basically relying on. Well, actually, I don't know. I think we're relying on the CSV parser
were we
library.
using it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're using that in the CSV song parser class.
Ah, right.
One of the things I was thinking about is, and this goes back to a question that came up when we were figuring out what library to use. This is such a like, do you include a library when libraries tend to be fairly generic? But here we're like literally using what's basically one file, and one class. And so, do you copy and paste the code into your project, or do you use the
Mm,
library? And I was looking at the code, and it's like it's not a lot of code. We might just want to copy it, but I figure let's get it to work, and then we can figure out what we want to do.
yeah, I guess I would. My initial reaction was like, well, what kind of frequency are they updating? Does it matter? Is it
It,
so?
it it's
Um,
it's an it's an RFC, so it's not going to change like sort of the whether it has double quotes or not. It's comma separated, and if it does have double quotes with an embedded comma, then it'll handle it.
right.
Uh, Honestly, I actually had ChatGPT write the code for it. Uh, it's just not a lot of code, and so
Yeah,
I think we'll probably want to do a drop in replace of it because it's really not that complicated.
right.
So
And do we need a full library for just one class kind of thing?
exactly for a class that ends up we're using maybe 30 lines of code of it. So yeah,
And with one less dependency, which, as we
right.
know, dependencies can be deadly.
Yes, yeah. Hey, Control Dave Twitch. I do drink coffee. Oh, I should open up my Twitch. That's the downside of StreamYard is I don't see the Twitch stuff. Let me get my stream.
I wonder if Control Dave Twitch has Twitch because they're on Twitch or because they drink coffee too.
Mhm. There we go. Thanks for the caffeinate. I'll follow through on that. I'm going to reject one of your caffeinates. I'm not going to drink that much coffee yet. Grab that one. Reject that one. All right, great. Oh, so one thing I put in there, so you can see there on the top with the parse song from CSV. Astrid mentions the left pad. Yeah, don't have dependencies on like a one or two line thing. Like just copy and paste it. Like it's really funny. It's like people. I feel like there's guidance that has in our industry, and this is probably true of any profession, that have been interpreted by a lot of folks as these are hard and fast rules, right? So, dry at it is, I think, one of the most dangerous things to interpret strictly as don't copy and paste code ever, don't have duplication ever. Um, in terms of actual, syntax level of code. And I think it's just wrong. And I think it gets people into a lot of trouble. I think it actually makes things worse. Um, and that in a lot of cases, that wasn't even the intent of dry. Dry was more about what, what information and state you want to make sure not to duplicate. And I think interpreting we must not, copy and paste code. I mean, yes, if you're copying and pasting, 10, 20, 30 lines several times, then maybe you want to think about sort of some kind of refactoring to reuse. But I think that for me connects with this idea that one of the top benefits of object-oriented programming is reuse, and I think that's actually a mistake. I think reuse is great if you get there through actual use. But designing for reuse is actually really hard, as any library developer will tell you. So I think dry and reuse are way over, especially those less experienced over index on that. And I'm here to tell you, you can copy and paste code. It's fine. You can copy and paste code from a library. If it's open source, you can just do that. Make sure you abide by whatever license there is, but copy and paste it. Maybe rewrite it yourself to learn a little bit. But if it's, if it's one class or even like one method, just copy and paste it. You don't have to bring in a whole library, and you don't have to make it a library. Yeah, dude, man, is just return not is even. Yeah. That's right, base blame. Yeah. Single point of truth. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's why, yeah, I don't use dry. I use spot, single point of truth. Thank you. So all that's to say, at some point we might replace that. What I want to say is the stuff at the top is if we wanted to use. Right now we're escaping the double quotes, but I just wanted I sort of put in the usage of text blocks, which makes it slightly more clear. Although I am annoyed by the trailing backslash at the end of the line to prevent an actual new line in the string. When we get to multi-line CSVs, then we'll probably go to text blocks. But I feel like it's a little. I don't know. What do you think of that?
I think 16, 18 is way more readable than 13,
Okay.
if that's what you were
Yeah,
alluding to.
yeah. So if we want to
Yeah,
switch that, that's why I put that in there. So we have that option.
yeah. Let's just dump that, and then we can get rid of the comment. Or should we leave the comment?
I
Don't
think
remind me this one.
I would say
Nah, I
leave
think we
the.
know.
I think
Oh, sorry.
I think
Oh, this. Yes. Because of
yeah,
that.
I think leave that part of the comment. Last line has to be so everything through the but you can probably
Get rid of the but.
get rid of the but.
Or leave the but, get rid of everything else.
And yeah, so since I lied about what Excel would actually save it as, and also since if we think
You
about
didn't
the
lie, you just didn't know. Just
I was wrongly confident, and I was wrong. So anyway, do we want though to so there's gonna be two different forms of import, presumably. Maybe not. You tell me. One is here's the file, upload it,
right.
and the other, which we're sort of currently working on, is let's copy and paste from the spreadsheet directly into a text box. If we're copying and pasting, we probably want to use as our example a literal copy and paste from the spreadsheet just so we can see what it looks like.
Right.
Because I don't know actually what Excel would put into the clipboard.
Right.
I can guess, but I'm not sure. So maybe we should try that before we
Sure.
nail down what we're actually going to parse.
Just for giggles, I'm going to just pull out Sublime here, my text editor. Let me bring in.
And
So now
Astrid
it's interesting.
says, can you find a song or something or band name or title that has a comma in it so we can see what that looks like?
Right.
Even if you have to fake it, that might be a good idea.
Let's see. This is going to be a funny search.
Search for comma.
That's in band.
Ah, yes, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yes.
Yeah, it's not too bad, and it's near
They
the
don't.
top.
Do they use the Oxford comma?
Oh my God.
Is it Earth, comma, Wind, and Fire, or is it Earth, comma, Wind, comma, and Fire? Sorry, I had to do
So
that.
what I guess we want to be able to, well, two things. One is we want to be able to skip columns that we don't need, right? Because at the moment we don't care about contributor.
Right.
Actually, it looks like I've got some hidden columns here. What are they? Oh, links to lyrics. So yeah, actually interesting. Actually, I want to do a little test. What does, if I do a copy, if it's hidden, does it grab it or not?
I sure hope it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm going to go to there and then just see.
Oh, that's even worse. Oh, that's interesting. All right, so
Worse as far as the format goes.
yes.
Yeah, there's no comma.
Can
Was
you?
it tab? Probably a tab
Yeah, it's
character.
probably a tab.
It's a
Yeah,
tab. I can
that looks
tell
like
by
a
the way it
tab.
feels.
Um,
Play.
so I wonder, is there an option under the edit menu to copy in a different format from Excel?
Copy in a different format. Interesting.
So on the
Um,
menu, the top menu.
you mean up here? When you say top menu, you mean this?
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking Mac. Where is the menu? Where's
Well,
like the
this is the menu. It's a ribbon, they call it. This whole thing.
right, but
Or you
there's on the Mac, there's a menu in addition to the ribbon.
really?
Yeah, because there should be an edit menu somewhere.
Oh, let's see if it's one of those hidden ones. They have this quick access toolbar here. New open email. I'm not seeing edit. You can see if it's in the
Um,
edits as a.
you might have it turned off. All right, no worries. In the left, there is the clipboard section. There's a copy button there.
Yeah, it only does copy or copy as picture.
Mhm. So, so what do we want to
Ouch.
do? Do we want to assume that you're not going to copy and paste since that's not going to work for us?
No. Yeah, I mean, we can just say, I mean, at first I'm the only user, right? So I could
Right.
just do export, well, not as PDF, but where is it? CSV is in here somewhere. There it is. Could do that route,
Yeah.
which will, dump to a CSV file.
So if we're going to do that,
But then it dumps the whole thing, not a
right,
subset,
right.
which is a bummer.
I mean, it is. So if we paste that in, so if it is tab separated, that's fine too, right? I mean, the splitter, the thing we split against doesn't
Can
have to be a comma.
right.
Um, as long as it's a character that doesn't appear in the text itself, that's fine. I mean, tab is technically better because it doesn't, you're not going to have generally tabs in your text.
One would hope.
If we paste this into Java code, So just paste it into like a text block.
Sure.
What does it look? Do the tabs basically do the tabs
Right.
stay?
In here, let's just do it. Which test were we just working in? This one, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was the other one.
Well, that's the one that has the text block. So if you just
Right.
duplicate or just create a new string, and we'll do a multi-line string. Yeah, and then just paste whatever's in the clipboard. So
it feels like the tabs are there.
Yeah. Do we want? So what do you want to do? It's sort of, you're going to be the one importing the spreadsheets. What is it you'd like to do here?
Well, I mean, I see it as two steps. One is we want to import like a subset for initial development,
Mm-hmm.
and then ultimately dumping the whole thing.
Right.
So it seems like supporting a subset, in other words, the copy and paste approach versus
Mm-hmm.
having to go into Excel, export to CSV, delete a bunch of rows that we don't need, just seems screamingly tedious to me. So it seems like being able to support copy and paste off the top of my head seems like the way to go, as ugly as it is.
So
What do you think?
another option is we always do tab delimited, because you can export save as a tab delimited text.
Yes. Yeah, you can.
And so then that will,
I think it's options.
just save as. And then you can select.
But I believe the selection there's
That drop
only
down.
there's
Nope, below.
oh,
Text tab delimited. So up 5.
up 5. Oh, there we go. Oh, it does it as txt file. Interesting.
Right.
I want to see what that looks like. That's fine.
Yep.
Hit that Dropbox pop up. Let's see if I have that easily available.
So while you're doing that, I'll answer a question from chat.
Sounds good.
Hey, Remixer. You're going to have a tough time finding a project to contribute to that's not the framework itself. So the issue is that the kind of stuff you'll find that's open source, that uses Java and Spring Boot, tend to be libraries and frameworks and things like that. There aren't a lot of sort of applications, which I think is unfortunate, but the fact is there aren't a lot of them. And the ones that I've looked at, because I've looked at a lot of them, mainly to find examples for use in presentations and training, they tend to be pretty big, and not well structured, and so not very friendly to contribute to. So I would sort of turn the question around and say, why do you want to? What kind of project are you looking for, and what's your purpose in doing that? Because there are different kinds of projects, and there would be different reasons for you to do it. If you just want to contribute to an open source project, then I would say find small things, whether it's little documentation improvements or API documentation improvements. Certainly Spring Boot and Spring Framework could use a lot of improvements there, because it's just so much that could always use improvements. But if you're looking to work on sort of a more application as opposed to library framework, then that's going to be hard to find. And so Astrid mentions a resource on finding a project in general. I think it's really kind of unfortunate that there's just not, like, I've got several projects that are open source that use Java and Spring Boot, and I'm certainly open to pull requests, but yeah, it's like, again, sort of what's your goal, right? So in doing any of these things, right, working on your own stuff, contributing to other stuff, it helps to know sort of why you're doing it. There has to be a purpose to doing it, and you want to think about what is that purpose, because that will help guide the kinds of things you can look for. All right, Mike, what have we got? What have you found?
Well, it's the big bummer is it doesn't honor the hidden. So the hidden columns. So
Well,
now,
yeah, I mean, I would not have expected the save as to
no,
honor hidden. Yeah,
no, I know, but
yeah,
it's sort of the downside of going that approach.
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I'm
I mean,
leaning towards the
eventually you're going to have to. So eventually you're going to have to, if you're going to want to import a whole file, you're going to have to export a file that um, removes those columns.
right. Yeah, and that'll be theoretically a one-time event.
Right.
But then the other thing is at that point, hopefully we'll have built enough where all the columns are useful, or at least
Yeah,
most of them.
and again, we can't always, add the function. I think we've talked about this. I don't remember if we talked about it on stream. We can ignore columns, right?
Right,
We can
exactly.
code that, so that way it's less work, less manual work for you to do, and less.
Exactly.
And I always look at it as two things. One is make it easier. Two is make it less likely you'll make mistakes. And so if, for example, if you're constantly having to copy the file and then remove the columns, and then you mistakenly remove too many or remove not enough, then we'd want the application to
Adapt to it.
adapt to that, yeah, instead of
Yeah.
the other way around.
Yeah. I'm thinking at this point, just straight copy and paste, and
Okay.
that'll grab the columns. And we can actually have it so that we grab a column we don't need
Right.
and practice ignoring it.
Right.
Because I think the whole export thing is just too tedious,
Mhm.
frankly. Like you said, potentially error prone. So I'm gonna have to actually get the right columns that we want because I hid too many. Speaking of, so let's do this. Oh, now this is the TXT version. Let me go back to the original. Let's see if the TXT is still open. It is. Close that one. Don't save, don't care. Okay. What do I got in here? Unhide. Oh, right, format. Don't need that at the moment. Title. Oh, interesting. Oh, bummer. Let me close this for a sec. I'm going to go over another computer. Yeah, don't save. Back in a sec.
I'll answer some chat questions. Whoops. So Remixer, you say, I like the FOSS idea and philosophy. I think it would help improve my skills. I'll be honest with you, contributing to open source is not a great way to improve your skills unless you're very sure that the project is going to provide you with useful feedback. In my experience, a lot of projects, unless they're big and well maintained and sort of well supported, the maintainers just don't have the time to give you feedback on what you contributed. So if your purpose is to improve your skills, I don't think it's the best way to do that. I think the best way to improve your skills is write your own code. Write your own code, create your own project, use open source stuff, maybe open source your project. But I think far and away the best way to improve your skills is to create your own thing, because it's unlikely you're going to be able to. There's a lot of projects, and again, it depends on the kinds of stuff you want to work on, and the kinds of things you want to learn. Um, so there is an advantage to contributing to an existing project because you can get experience working on a large project and contributing to it. But it takes a really long time. A project that's of any size is going to take a really long time for you to get into it enough to be able to contribute a non-trivial piece. And then you also have to find a project that exists where it's not, it's non-trivial, and where the maintainers are going to be able to provide feedback. A lot of times, again, they just don't have the bandwidth to be able to provide deep feedback, and it might just be like, we can't accept this. Um, so definitely support the idea of contributing, but and I gotta say that I think you're gonna improve your skills much more by creating your own project and working on things that matter to you. And I talk about this on almost every stream it comes up. It's like, create a project, build it yourself, just like what we're doing here. Like what Mike and I are doing. Build a project that's meaningful to you, that does something. It doesn't have to be big, but as you approach each little problem, like what we're looking at here, is like, do we want to do CSV or tab delimited? How do we do that? How do we parse that? Those are going to be real problems that you will then have to solve, and then you will improve in that way. Um, so building your own projects, you won't get feedback from others necessarily, but you can. There are places where you can say, "Hey, what do you think of this code?" In fact, I see that fairly frequently on Reddit, and some other places. Uh, but the feedback you'll also get is you will be using it and you will be writing it, and so you will have to make it work. And so there is a certain amount of minimal feedback, but I don't think it's any worse, and probably better, because you're going to be able to ask for, hey, and there are various communities that can provide that feedback. Um, and they're depending on how much money you have to spare, you can also pay for coaches to provide you feedback. uh, I do that. I don't do it for free because it's expertise, but there are free communities that can give you feedback. But ultimately, you will also get feedback just by trying to make it work.
Yeah,
Um,
it's an important point because as you're working, I mean, you'll make it work, but you'll also find the road bumps, the bumps
mhm,
in the road that make you go, oh, why is this hard? Why is this difficult?
yeah. So I'm going to slightly disagree with Base Bloom here. I think doing code in katas is worthwhile, as long as you have a very specific goal of what you hope to achieve doing the kata. Um, there is a vast difference, though, and this is why I think it's useful as a portion of your learning. There's a huge difference between doing katas and creating a real application. There's going to be stuff in a real application that you're going to have to figure out that katas don't cover, because katas generally don't do a lot of things like present a UI and persist to a database. And the fact is that in most applications, that's actually the hardest part, or at least integrating it together and making it work. The one thing that I would say is, um, make sure you know how to write tests. Learn how to write tests. And if you're going to do katas that really guide you to use tests, especially test driven. Even if you don't like it, it will give you practice on writing tests, which I think is one of the most important things in development, is figuring out how to write tests, because that will also guide your design. So you can join my Discord in case you're not already there. and you can get in touch with folks there. My community tends to skew a little bit more towards more experience, but there are lots of folks who are willing to provide some, answering questions. But you can also say, what communities and might be more appropriate for this, and we can make recommendations there. Yeah, and so katas are great as long as it's not the only thing you do. Is really the thing. So definitely important part of learning. I do katas when, especially, and a kata isn't necessarily even creating something. Sometimes it's like I do refactoring katas. What are the different ways I can refactor this code using automated refactoring tools in something like IntelliJ IDEA, and practicing those and trying out different things. And that's the goal, is to sort of experiment, try different things. With katas, you can do things like, hey, can I write this without any if statements? Can I write this, without any decision statements at all? No ifs and no switches. What does that look like? Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to do that, but sort of really expanding the kinds of things you look at.
Also, one thought that comes to mind, you could also, if you feel like you go too long before you're checking code, you could have a timer,
Mhm.
and when the timer goes off, you have to revert to whatever the last checking was,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Sort of to force you to learn that, I think of katas a lot for building habits,
Mhm.
whether it's keyboard shortcuts or refactoring techniques.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of katas. Yeah, Emily has a whole bunch in all sorts of different languages, and so you can start there. I've got a few, and you can get lots more suggestions uh, in my Discord. And yes, the testing and going and taking the tiniest steps possible and practicing that. Can I take even a smaller step? Will be invaluable, no matter no matter what kind of code you end up doing. All right, let's get back to spreadsheets.
Okay. I've got the columns I care about, and I'm leaving in 2 columns we don't want to use, the notes column and the contributor column for now. That'd be a future thing. So
Mhm.
it seems like it would give us information we care about plus some things we want to ignore.
Mhm.
So what do you think? Just grab up through earth, wind, and fire?
Sure.
Or actually 2 beyond it, just because.
Do you want the contributor in there?
Yeah, I was putting
Oh,
in an
because we're
extra
gonna.
column that we're going to ignore,
Got it.
if that's okay. I was
No,
thinking
that's
of
great.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the H column, the notes, is
Mhm.
another ignore for
Awesome.
now. There we go. There's a clean copy. Let me get this off screen again. So do we want to dump this all into this test?
Yeah, well, we've got
Why
text
not,
blocks,
right?
so it'll
Okay.
be pretty readable.
Yep. Let's go back here. Take that out and dump. Ooh, it didn't indent that time. Interesting. Now this test, the test is currently failing. So we were just doing this to see what it looked like. That's
Right.
how we left off. So we
So
probably
I think
should
yeah,
get
so
the
I think
test
that
passing first.
yeah, so I think what we should do though is grab one of those lines that we can use to say, can we parse a single line? Because that's what this uh, at least this test was, at least where we are in the code, was originally about, was to just see how can we successfully parse a line, and then we
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Keep going.
and then we can expand to to multiple lines, and then we can expand to dropping columns.
Okay. So grab a line with content
Yeah.
versus a header column.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna go old school here. There we go. Now it's tab-delimited, no longer.
Right,
Let's
which
get rid of
means
this.
it's not going to, which really means it's going to be way easier to parse, because we're not going to have to deal with commas that might be embedded, because we're not using commas separated. And here we don't even need to use the multi-line strings, because we don't have to escape double quotes or anything like that. So we could probably just go back to.
Well, actually, there is. So in there are some with quotes still. So see here, there's quotes for this one. So
but that's
certain.
part of the text.
True.
So we
Oh,
don't
right.
want
We're
to.
not saying quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be slicing along the tab, which means that'll do just fine.
Okay. So we'll dump this row 15, line 15.
So EndoFunctor0 asks, would we see this CSV parser as an adapter, part of an ingoing port? That's a good question. I think, so the question I was asked is, would we expect a different type of, in other words, are we parsing only because that's the way it's coming in from a specific endpoint, a specific adapter? So if, for example, we were writing this as a command line tool also, would we have the data in a different structure? And I think here it's actually a part of the application. So if it were, well, the web UI, we're going to do CSV or TSV, tab separated. But the command line is already going to have a different format, like a pure Excel spreadsheet, or we're going to get it in from some messaging feed where it's a completely different format. Then I would probably push that parsing into the adapter. But here, at least right now, it feels like it's actually part of the application.
I guess if we supported two UIs, one where you copy and paste into an edit box, and another one where you use a file picker to bring in, let's just say, an Excel spreadsheet. So then they would be two different. It's an analogy to what you were saying, basically.
Yeah, in that case, I think it's still the one that's uploading a file would eventually translate that into, here's a bunch of strings.
Right.
So there is some
There'll be one
adapting.
adapter there. Yeah.
Yeah, so there'd be some transformation there, but eventually it's not going to transfer all the way to the songs. That it's still going to pass. Here's a bunch of strings.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, I think we can assume that tabs are not part of any, at least not intentionally part of any of the actual content. Yeah. So so we don't need to use multi-line strings here at all. Was my suggestion, that we can just make this. You can just join it. So if you do Control-Shift-J, and then again, keep going. Now you can just get rid of the triple quotes. And is that space before Earth part of the?
Yeah, interesting. I'm trying. I was
Text?
actually, what's up with that? Let me go look. Here, look together. That was like 24, right? No, there's no space there. Interesting.
Can we look at the
Yeah, I'm going to.
Sublime?
Yeah. No space there either.
Yeah, so that was just an accident.
That was a, yeah.
All right, and since it's no longer technically CSV, we're gonna have to do some renaming.
Yeah.
But so let's at least name.
But we're red.
Yeah, let's I mean, we're changing our red, so let's change let's change all the names to just, at least in this class, to be you could call it tab separated, so TSV. I don't know if there's a standard.
I don't think there is. I didn't see that.
Part of TSV. Yeah, tab separated values, TSV. It's a Library of Congress says it's a file format, so we can use TSV. Tab separated values.
I kind of want to stick with the full word. I like to only use abbreviations when I've used them for a while, and they're like, could I be like, what's TSV? Whoops.
So in if.0, that's a really interesting question. I'm going to actually disagree. The operator, the users of this actually do care about the file formats, because that is part of the business. That's part of our domain. It's one thing if you have two machines exchanging files and you don't care what format that is, then the business doesn't care. But here, the business actually does care. Hey, we want to be able to import files of this format into this system. So it's not just arbitrary things. Ultimately, it has to be some specific file format. And so it could be that, if this thing were, popular and people wanted to import stuff and they were using a different tool that actually generated comma separated instead of tab-delimited, then that would be an additional use case. So these are, even though it does seem a bit technical, it is a use case. It is we want to be able to import tab-delimited files. We want to be able to import Excel spreadsheets. We want to be able to import from a Google spreadsheet. All of those are use cases. And yes, part of them have a technical aspect, but that doesn't mean the business doesn't care. Yeah, absolutely. So, right, if we need to process a file because we're integrating with a system, you can bet the business cares about what those documents are. Generally they're XML, and cares a lot about the technical format, because we want to be able to support, and there's especially when you get into areas like health insurance, and there's, oh my gosh, is the mess that is those file formats and electronic records. So there is a lot of stuff where you're integrating things, and even if it's not through a UI, it's fetching it from another system. Maybe file uploads still happen, FTP and so on. The business certainly cares about making sure that those file formats are correct. So it is dangerous to sort of assume that business doesn't care about technical aspects. There are some technical aspects that the business cares about. Yeah, absolutely. CSV is one of the more common interchange formats. It's a terrible format if you have any control over it. But lots and lots and lots of apps use it. Yeah. It's a really good question, because I know for me, my tendency is to say, is this really, is this something that a business person cares about? And there's a lot of stuff that no, they don't care about. But this they definitely do. All right. What you looking for?
I was just browsing.
Oh, okay.
So I renamed the test class. I renamed.
Right.
Actually, I still got this one to do. And so I'm actually doing a mix of TSV in some places, and just to sort of start the education of, but not go overboard.
Works for me. Works for me.
Cool.
So let's update our assertion. So we actually know what those values should be. In fact, we can
You were going to say something?
we can actually expand. Let's actually make this a bit simpler because it was failing before because we were creating a song that had some defaults. So let's actually make this a bit um,
As in
uh,
change line 14?
no, as in change our assertion. Let's start out with a simpler assertion. Let's
Okay.
just start out that uh, the songs that we get um, basically just parse the artist. So what we can do is
Oh,
on 19 and a half, we can do an extracting, and we can say song : so we'll get a method handle, which will basically be one of the attributes. And let's start with artist. So let's just check that we get the artist, and then we can, for that, then we can just say contains exactly Earth, Wind, and Fire. Because then what we can do is we can just get that to work, and then we can expand more
right.
and more. So these are the small steps we take. Remember, we
Yep.
just talked about that, folks.
I'm going to kick off the run test.
So this will most certainly fail because I don't know what the heck it's going to do. Yeah.
Now, was this song service test an outer test that we probably want to disable for now?
Yes, that's a good point. So let's go disable that and indicate that that is basically we can put a comment saying disabled until the TSV parser is done.
While we're here, let's rename that.
Yes, the and a half is something I forget who I've learned it from first, but it's common in especially any kind of remote pairing situation because it's a lot faster than saying, "Can you go to line 19 and add another line between 19 and 20?" And just say 19 and a half. I think I learned it from Llewellyn Falco.
It also works for non-remote pairing as well.
Sure. Although it's a lot easier to just
Ensemble.
point. Can you add it over there?
Yeah, it's true with pairing. With ensembling in person,
Yeah.
the monitor is a lot farther away.
Yeah.
Well, assuming you're using like an 80-inch TV.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. So
oh, the failure. We wanted to see the failure.
yeah, the failures are relevant because we're going to actually delete the code and start over because the parsing is going to be way easier. So on the code below, delete the entire
body.
body. Yeah. And you maybe change the variable name. And so since it's tab delimited and we don't care about, and the tab always delimits it no matter where it is, we can just use string split.
Do you
So
want
if
to
you
start
say,
implementing at this point?
I mean,
I guess right now we'd have to return a list of.
we could return an empty list. I think we can go beyond that. I don't think we have to take that tiny step. I think we can implement it right away. So if you just say tsvSongs dot and then split.
First one.
Yep. And then /t.
The other backslash.
Yeah. So basically split on tabs.
Right.
And that returns an array. So let's hold on to that.
Oh.
Yep.
Actually,
I think we can come up with a better name for that.
yeah.
It would be columns. And then let's create a song that just has first column.
What does this guy need again? Was it control C
Uh,
parameters? The control shift P? Yeah.
that's the type info. If you want parameters, then
Oh, it's
it's
control shift I.
control P.
Oh, control P. Okay. Artist, song title, release
So artists are
date.
going to be the first column, so let's stick that in there, and then the rest
Yeah.
we can just put empty stuff.
I didn't count how many columns there were needed.
You can always hit control P to figure it out. Yeah, now we can just do an empty list.
Oh.
Lowercase e, because it's going to be a static method.
Right.
Yep, that one. All right, and then let's return a list of that song.
Oops. Ignore that run.
So can we switch back to the test that we're actually expecting to fail? Yeah. I think this will pass now.
I think you're right.
Yep.
Yep. Sweet.
Did you want to take a break at this point?
Yeah, I could use a quick bio break.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
All right. So we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll expand our song parsing. So stay tuned. All right. Hello, Nilium or Nilium. Just a reminder, I run a weekly book club. We just finished a book, and so we're voting on the next book. If you want to participate, there's no charge. What we do is every time during this time on Sundays from 10 a.m. to noon Pacific. So basically, whatever time zone you're in, from an hour ago to an hour from now, that's about when it would happen on this day. And what we do is we discuss a book. So we're currently selecting a book, generally technical oriented books, sometimes more conceptual, like the learning domain driven design that we just finished. Sometimes really getting into code, which some of the book selections are there. So if you're already part of the Discord and you're already part of the book club, make sure you vote, because the more you vote, I mean, only vote once, but the more you all vote, I can't actually detect if you vote more than once, but don't do that. But the more that of you all vote, the more likely it'll be a book that you're interested in reading. And then we'll select the book and give folks time to get the book and start reading the book, and then we'll start discussing the book. And if you've never been part of a book club, no pressure. You don't have to talk. You can just hang out and listen. But I find it, one is it really helps, like, oh crap, I didn't read it. Let me go read the next chapter. And it's much more likely you're going to finish the book and that you're going to read the book and understand it much more than if you try to read it on your own. That's mainly selfishly part of the reason why I do it, is because I want to read some of these books and really dig into them, and doing it as a group is a great way to do that.
Agreed. It also helps with, like you said, with the discipline. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I bought this book, I keep meaning to read it,
Yeah.
but if it's like, gotta have chapter 9 read by
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah. So there's a little of accountability, but of sort of the good kind. So
Right. To thyself, not to the group.
exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Vote early, yes. Don't vote often. All right.
you want to expand, right?
So yes, we probably want to do a commit, since we currently have all tests passing and we've done some non-trivial changes.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true, BDSL. If you don't read it, I won't know, and it really doesn't matter. Showing up is great, but even if you can't show up at all, the discussions are recorded, so you can always access them, and transcripts are generated, so you can always search and read through them. But even if you haven't kept up with the reading, you can always join and participate with no guilt. No guilt. That looks good to me.
Okay.
LGTM, as they used to say.
LGT.
Looks good to me.
Oh.
Way back in the early 2000s, that's what we did at Google, and now it's become pretty much everybody does that. But I think that's the worst. I don't know. I don't want to get into pull request reviews. All right, so shall we expand to? Do we think we can take a step to just now
Oh,
do the entire song?
I think so.
Or we could do the entire song other than. Oh, but we have to skip columns.
We had to skip columns.
Yeah, so
That's not too hard from what I mean,
um
we just ignore them.
yeah, I guess we
Yeah, we just
know what they are up front here.
yeah.
So do we think we can make that jump
To the whole kit and caboodle?
to the whole song?
Right. So then what we would do is get rid of the extracting
Uh-huh.
and then make this a new song.
Right.
Okay, sure. I'm up for it if you are.
Let's do it. If we
Okay.
goof, then we can always revert and
Oh my
take smaller
God,
steps.
reverting. What a crazy idea.
Loss aversion is a thing. We can avoid we can that's another thing katas are great for, is getting used to throwing away code. And I think it was
Yes.
mentioned before, is like, do the kata, feel good about it, and then delete it and try again. And that will get, because one of the things that is you're fighting against your cognitive bias of loss aversion, sunk cost fallacy, uh, is sometimes it's easier to just delete the code and do it again because the bottleneck is not the typing.
No, we decided to include type. Okay. I imagine we would start with just one. Is that right?
Yeah, I was as you were typing that, I was like, the theme seems like a bigger step, like a step on its own. So I think let's grab the first one and then we can
Should we
expand.
make it list? Yeah, it'll still be list of
It
here.
still has to be a list of, but
Right.
we can just make it the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. So should fail.
Should fail because it's empty for everything but the artist.
Yeah. Be curious to see what it looks like. Oh, interesting.
Can you scroll up in the error? Yeah.
Ah, there we go. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah.
Scrolling problem.
So, yep. So as expected, everything was empty except for the artist, but we got all the other stuff. All right. Let's make it pass.
One. So column. I'm actually not digging that. This is not self-explanatory. So let's see. Artist title, and then the next one is, well, we'll just say it's 2. What is the parameters again? Release title. Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we want to update
Name.
our test data to actually include those, because it would be very easy to flip the ones that don't have any data and we wouldn't know it from this test.
Right. So you mean put in some bogus values here?
Yeah. And you'd have to put that into the appropriate place in the TSV.
Right. Actually, I want to go back and look at the TSV. So it's, you know what? I'm just going to put this here for a second. Okay, artist, song title, release title. I'm just going to use the brief. I'll actually write.
Yeah, just write
What it is. Yeah. But like and then release type. And then we're ignoring notes.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So I can see a failure coming already. That's fine. That's good. That's the way this is supposed to work. And how many tabs are there? There's 1. So we'll just say notes.
Yep.
Interesting. How many tabs are here? 2. Well, we're not looking at contributor.
So put in theme 4 there, because that's that.
Oh, right. Yeah. Good call. That's it. That covers it.
Yeah, BDSL, we're absolutely going to do some refactoring sooner or later for those. Yep, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
I might have been muttering it under my breath. I can't remember if I said it out loud or just in my head. But when you're pairing or ensembling, you should think out loud as much as you can.
You did mutter something, and I'm like, yeah. We'll get to that. I didn't.
But it's true. It is that skill, though. It's an interesting skill to start acquiring when you're pairing and mobbing. It's thinking out loud rather than just to yourself.
Yeah. I think that's actually something that's really, really hard to adjust when you're pairing. I think it's more obvious. When you're ensembling, I think sometimes it can sometimes be like, yeah. Anyway, so we probably want to update our assert since we changed our data.
Yeah. I'm going to ignore that.
Right.
We're just going to look at one for now. Thank
Yep.
you.
Hmm.
And ignoring that.
Yep.
Okay.
So this will certainly fail
Yeah.
because the columns are wrong and we don't have any themes.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, it's pretty close. The only thing we're missing is the theme. Everything else is correct.
Yeah, you're right. Hmm.
So,
Right,
because
because I took a
the
good
one,
stab at it here.
yeah, because the one we want to ignore actually is the one in between the release type and the theme.
Right.
So let's make it pass.
So here we're returning an empty list, but instead we want, can we just do,
You could, yeah, yeah.
um, now which column is that? 0, 1, 2, 3, 5. So it should pass unless there's something silly
Yeah.
I made a mistake on. Nope.
All
Cool.
right. Let's do a commit here.
Um,
I think we can just say all attributes plus first theme.
works for me.
All right. Yeah, that's something I don't know when or if Java will ever get sort of named and default parameters. Is lots of discussion around that. It's not the highest priority at this point, but maybe someday we'll see something like that. In the meantime, that's where a builder might be handy. All right. So skipping the columns was easy because we are very much tied to the exact order. So if that changed, we would not know about that. But I don't know that that's a requirement, at least not yet.
Not yet. I mean, we could ultimately tie it to a
Yeah,
header name.
exactly. But for now, I
Um,
think we can just hard code the skipping of it, as it were.
right.
So let's expand our themes.
Forget the syntax for this.
It's just comma.
Just comma and
Yeah.
array.
Mhm.
Okay. So now here, the same thing. Well, actually, we want it to fail first, right?
So I'm actually wondering uh, about that.
Oh,
So you punched in your data theme 4,
but I
but
didn't
actually
include it here.
I don't know how much I want to put into this test. So there is let's put in theme 4. Let's make it complete because I think we'll need a separate test for what if you would only have one theme.
Right.
It shouldn't return the theme and then 3 empty strings. So I think that'll be a separate test.
Mm. Right, right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so now
So
this should fail.
this will certainly fail. And it
And
does. Yeah.
failing, yep. So yeah, definitely the simplest thing to work, but I see where you're going with the once we start having empty strings, what's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Run it.
Let's run it. We expect this to pass.
2, 3, yeah.
It's funny. It's like for this one, so I generally don't like. I actually don't like and this is another sort of guideline that folks have. Is like, don't have magic numbers and literals in your code. It's like, sure, you can do that. That's totally fine. You just have to be careful about which ones. So
Right.
here, I would agree that 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, like there's nothing in that code that tells you anything about it. Where where I find it not useful to replace magic quote magic numbers is when you're doing a comparison and it's inside of a method that's very clear what that means. But here is I would agree that constants probably are useful. Do we want to since our tests are passing, do we want to do that refactoring?
Yeah, I was wondering, do you want to just make symbolics for the literals, or is there value in just having named instead of, in other words, extracting this to what would you call it, artist column, for example? So named variables rather
Mhm.
than magic numbers.
Yeah, I don't have a strong preference.
Yeah, I don't either.
um,
I just throwing it out.
In fact, I probably lean more towards a local variable with a name than just pulling out 0 as some magic number.
Right. So something like this. What? Oh, wrong one. Is it Control
Control
Alt? I
Alt.
always get that wrong. I always get the
Yeah.
Alt and the. So here it would be. Do you want to include artist in the name or just call it artist
I think we just say
or
artist.
artist? Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to me, BDSL, and this goes back to sort of the dry aspect a little bit. This idea of use more than once. To me, I don't care about usage so much as meaning. Somebody looking at this, would they understand what the code there on line 14 does and what all the parameters mean? If not, then I want to attach meaning to them. So one way of attaching meaning is by doing what we're doing, which is extract them to variables. Because again, we don't have named parameters, so we don't have that information. And I personally and like so sometimes I think even by default, IntelliJ has the parameter names turned on, so they'll show up as, and I find that really distracting. I'd rather, and especially since you don't see that if you're using some other way of looking at the code, I want the code as if you were seeing it on GitHub. I want that to be as clear as possible. So for me, it's less about duplication and more about meaning. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, Clayton. So Clayton says, is it necessary to check the length of columns and use a try catch block to? Well, we wouldn't use a try catch, but there are the non-happy scenarios, such as what if the column doesn't have all these things? Doesn't isn't is not the expected length in terms of number of columns. We will certainly have to test that. And again, this is where when we're doing test-driven development, which is what we're doing test-driven development. You don't always know the tests up front that you're going to write. You may have an idea, and so maybe you jot them down, but you also look at, right, just like when we code. I mean, there, I feels like sometimes people even aren't even aware of how they code anymore because they've gotten fluent in it. But when you're writing code, you think about the different scenarios and you write if blocks and branches and things like that. TDD is the same way. It's like, oh, I need to make sure that we handle there aren't always 4 themes. So you use that information to then write another test. So instead of just going ahead and writing the code right away, you write a test for that to make sure that you get it right.
I'm gonna rerun just even though that
Yep.
was cool.
Yeah, I think we'll not quite sure how we'll phrase this, but we'll probably get to something where we'll probably extract the theme stuff to its own method to clean up this method. But for now, I think we just need to know that the next test we're going to write is what if there aren't 4 themes?
Right. We just say with only one theme.
So what does it mean? What do we expect to see and observe if there's only one theme?
The song would have.
Song would only have one theme. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 0 themes. Do we have can you have 0 themes, or must you always have a theme?
You have to have a theme.
Okay. I mean, that would probably be a
A good test to write
a good test for when we get to sort of our
documentation.
sad cases.
Right. Yeah, interesting. Back to naming this parse song with only theme. Oh, with only one thing. As
Only one theme. I
one,
think that's fine.
one theme.
Has only, yeah.
Oh, actually, hey, there's a dead comment.
Oh yeah,
14.
let's delete that.
And the other one can go away soon. That's just a. So here we would. Theme 2, theme 3,
Yeah, that is the
theme
other way to
4.
do it, Astrid. I kind of prefer this way because it makes the line that actually creates the song a little less bulky and verbose. But that is definitely an alternative.
Yeah, for sure. And that may come into play if it turns out we have some code coming up soon where
Yeah,
this is not clear.
yeah.
But that's a bridge in the future, possibly. Okay, so that's the setup. You can actually use the same there.
Probably just copy the whole rest of it.
You think?
Adjust.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Where did it? There you go.
Right. Do we want to be a little bit more evident in our data and basically, since we're only caring about the theme, replace the rest of the text with just irrelevant?
Oh, so but you mean up here relevant as well?
Yeah, so basically the input and the output. So just say,
Got it.
relevant artist, irrelevant whatever.
Actually, I'm wondering. No, is there a?
Do you want to replace both at the same time? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah,
Yeah, so what you
I
can
don't
do
want to. I don't want to place these up here.
what you can
Oh,
do
you're right. There's
is
that. Yeah,
Alt
please.
J.
And as you do it, it's added to
It's
the
now you're in multi-caret mode.
right. So irrelevant
If
artist.
you don't like irrelevant, you can say don't care.
That's
And then
fine.
then you can hit escape to get out of the multi-caret and
And
then
then do
do
it
Alt J
again.
again. So
I'm
no,
gonna try.
no, you got to select it both from
Oh
the
yeah,
Alt.
you're right.
So
Yeah, I
Alt
see what
J
you did.
just selected the
The
first
first one,
one.
but not all of them. Yep. I got to. They're additive.
Exactly.
Got it. We got artist. Don't care. Song title. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing both to see which I like better. Don't care.
Release
Oh,
title.
darn. Release title. Actually, so if I do that, can I do, now it replaces it.
No, what you can do is
Do left
just hit
arrow.
yes, and it will do that.
Sweet. Okay. And
Alt J is a band, really? Okay. That's funny.
oh yeah, they are. I forgot about that band. There's another band right now that's charting that's C:/ oh, I forget the rest of the band name, but it's C:/
Right.
something.
That's funny.
Um,
Well, I hope it's backslash.
/, yeah. Okay. Nope. And then actually it's just one.
Actually, backslash would be fine because if we got that in the text, it's already stored as a backslash. It's only when it appears in code that that it acts as an escape character. So we'd be fine.
I found it. The band is C:/ user.
That's great.
It was on this best of list that DJs were putting together. Okay, so it changed both the test.
That's
Yeah,
not a very
certainly
good, not a Googleable, searchable
band
band name
name.
though. That's unfortunate.
Did you try?
Sorry. Yeah, I tried it. Didn't
You didn't,
it?
like
It
with,
didn't.
even with the
It
word
didn't.
band?
It didn't find it. Yeah, I said band
Wow.
named. So, how do you feel about irrelevant versus don't care?
I kind of like don't care. Also, the cognitive friction of having to remember how to spell irrelevant.
Yes, yes.
Um,
That's why
there's,
I mentioned it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so let's see. Can I? No, just do it this way. Oh, forgot my Control J, Alt J twice.
Okay. Oops.
Got it.
All right.
Now we should still be failing.
Yes, because we will have some empty themes that we don't
Actually, it's
want.
not still failing. That's our first time running that test.
Oh,
So it
all right. Well, then
dawned on me.
still fails for the reason we just said.
Yep.
All right. So how do we want to fix this?
Would we extract the list of on line 20 on the bottom? And it's, yeah, I'm just wondering if we could extract it into something that will then start having some logic.
Yeah, I think extracting is a good first step. So let's do that.
Now, the bummer is
Extract it to a
we
variable.
did all the naming of the, well, we could still extract and pass it in.
Yeah. Let's extract it to a variable. You don't have to select it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we can just call it themes. Yeah, that one, that expression.
Oh, right, that one.
So right now it's not sure which you're extracting.
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah, it took me a second. Themes.
Did it just tack on 1 to themes 1?
Did it?
Yes. It wrote theme 11 because it took the first variable that it found and said, I'm going to add a 1 to it. All right.
So We extract that into a method, and then
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We could write some more code here, but it'd probably be easier to
visualize it.
visualize if it's in its own method. So let's do that.
Parse themes.
Sure.
What, you don't want to use get themes? I know, I'm evil.
It's terrible.
Get the get out
It's
of it.
it's really annoying because like it's not even a like I know that IntelliJ does that by default, but it's like it's not even a get. It's actually creating something. So yeah, so now it made it static for some reason. Can we not do that?
Interesting.
Sometimes when you extract method, it checks the checkbox for static. Or you can just delete it.
Yeah, okay. I was debating whether to make it public at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we could test directly against that if we wanted to. Or leave it private and just test indirectly.
I think probably leave it private and we'll be testing. We're already testing it indirectly, so.
Yeah. Okay, so we should have the same failure. Nothing,
right.
Everything we did was automated refactorings. So, yep. Same failure.
So BDSL mentions arrays copy range. No, we don't want to do that. That just copies it into another array. We actually want to figure out if they're any empty.
Yeah, if they're empty.
So we could basically, I mean, we could do this the very clunky way.
Could we do it? Okay,
Or
tell me what you're thinking. Yeah.
what were you thinking?
Well, I was thinking clunky at first and then refactored it better.
Yeah. So the question is, what's the clunky way?
It just seems like a lot of if statements, which sucks.
Yes, that was that was the clunky way I was thinking. I think we can do a little bit better than that. So one of the things that we can look at is we can see duplication, that the only thing that is changing from those first 4 lines of the method is the index. So let's basically let's do a refactor. So let's disable our currently failing test.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and do a prepare refactor. No.
This one?
No. The test
Oh,
that's
the current
currently
failing test. Yeah. Sorry, brain fart. This one.
Yeah. So what we're doing now, folks, is we're doing a prepare refactoring. What prepare refactoring is is to make the change easier, to make the code that we know we're going to need to write. It's going to be better if this is in the form of a loop. But we want to make sure we don't break the code while we convert it to a loop. So we're basically taking a step back, getting back to passing. So now we can refactor. So if I wanted to switch hats, I would put on my refactor hat. I'm not going to do that. And so now we can do this safely to make sure that we basically don't break anything. So now that we're in safe refactoring mode, let's convert those lines into a for loop.
He's right here.
Yeah.
Unless there's a refactoring way, automated refactoring way to do it.
I doubt it. IntelliJ is that smart. I mean, maybe if we were using Copilot, it might have a way to do that, but we're gonna have to.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
We're
Okay.
gonna have to type that code. We could use streams, but that feels really much more awkward because we'd have to first convert the array to a stream, but we'd have to do that stream starting at a certain point, and it's not worth it. Yeah.
What do you think going this approach?
Um,
Kind of ugly.
yeah, we're all about ugly. I think that's fine.
For now. Okay.
Yeah. Probably less than or equal. Well, let's leave it. And if that doesn't work, we have our test to save us.
True.
So let's create an empty list first so that we'll have something to add to. That'll be our themes. So just want to do a declaration of themes and then just do new array list. And then you can delete line 32 so we can get it to compile. And what I usually in this case it doesn't matter. So let's because because we're not returning a list of songs, so your 23 is actually wrong. It's a list of string.
Yeah. That's. Yeah. I knew there was something funky.
Yeah, Astrid saw it. So did the foobar fish. So let's now add the themes to the list. Yep. Do .add. Yep. 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 Gone.
And it'll fail. Oh.
Well, it should pass,
3
right?
out of
Because
4.
this was a refactoring.
Oh, right.
So
But we're not using it in any.
So we're expecting it to pass, and this is why we're doing it during the refactor stage. Is we may not have noticed that the for loop is wrong.
Right.
Let's run it. And so this is why we do this in the safe space of refactoring, because if we goof up on our refactoring, because this was a manual refactoring, we will know about it. So let's go fix that. So I prefer less than or equal to 8 because
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. My brain was going, that's ugly, but the other part of my brain didn't go, what about equals to?
I'm also curious what IntelliJ is suggesting to replace that for loop with.
Yeah. Well, we're a pass, so now we can ask.
Oh, that's even. Oh, not. I don't think that's any better. It's kind of cute, but I don't know.
I mean, cute's not a reason.
It's one of those, like, for loops are much more familiar, and so therefore, unless this were, oh, that's interesting. So that was something else I was thinking, and that was perhaps closer to what sort of BDSL was mentioning with the arrays copy of. We could do a list and do a sublist. What do we think about that? We don't even have to do a themes at all. We just return the arrays as list. The only issue is the 5, 9. But the constants don't matter because it's in a method called parse themes.
Yeah.
So can we look? Let's do that.
This one?
Yeah. Just click it. Yeah. Inline themes. Actually, just delete 24 and 25.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. No. You delete too much. 24 and 25.
24 and 25. I see. Gotcha. Wait a second.
So the
Let me do
blank
it the other
line.
way around. Got it.
And then drop 25.
Drop meaning
Delete 25.
delete 25. Okay.
And then delete the themes.add all and just say return. And you can drop those extra parentheses.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. So it's much more concise. It's pretty clear it's giving a sub list, and I don't really care about the numbers so much because the name of the method is pretty clear what we're doing. If we felt strongly about the 5 and the 9, we could make some constants. But I kind of like that because it really is oh, well, actually, that's great if this is the behavior we want. The next step we're going to remember, this was a prepare refactoring in order to make the next change easier. So we've now made the next change harder, or we've made it no easier than what it was before.
Right.
So let's undo all that. And this is why it's important to remember what mode we're in, that we're in prepare, which means we're trying to make the next step easier. This will make it easier to detect and bail if we hit an empty theme.
Right.
The sub list doesn't help us. And in fact, the streams doesn't help us either. So this is actually the ideal prepare because it gets us where we pretty much just have to write one or two lines of code. So, all right, let's just make sure this passes. All right, great. Let's do a commit saying we did a prepare. All right, now let's re-enable what we were preparing for. So this should still fail in the same way. And it does. And so now we can make it pass.
I want to say not empty, because columns is a string.
Yeah, you can say it would be outside the brace.
Oh yeah, bad cursor movement.
You can say is.
Oh, they don't have. Oh, we got to do bang. Yeah, I don't like bang. Well, we could do it just to get it to pass, and then make it. What? How come it's not adding a new? Weird. Was there something I did?
I didn't see what you did, so I'm not sure what happened.
Oh, okay. It wasn't giving me the matching braces, so I had to kind of manually hack it. This is the bang I was saying I'm not a fan of.
I'm not a fan either, but I also try not to go too far out of my way to get rid of it.
Right. So now it should pass.
It should pass, yeah. So this is one way to do it, which is actually technically not the behavior that we want, because we said, or maybe we didn't say, but I was thinking you'd never have a theme and then a blank and then another theme, right? They'd always be either theme and then some blanks, or theme and then two blanks, or theme and then a fourth blank.
So it's Sorry, keep going. I think I
Yeah,
know where
so
you're
if
going.
that's the case, we can bail out of the loop as soon as we hit an empty string.
Ah,
So that's one way of both getting rid of the bang and being
so let me do
a
it.
bit more true to what we're saying.
Invert.
Yeah. And so instead of continue, we can just say break. Yeah.
Or return themes. You prefer?
I don't like a return embedded all the way in there.
Yeah.
That's just me. I know
Now
some
this
people do early returns, but I don't like early returns.
only solves part of what you said, right? Because wouldn't we want something like this?
No, because you said the first theme is never going to be blank. So it'll always add the first
Oh,
one.
it'll always add it. Right.
And then we'd be able to do some validation later. If that list is empty, then we know something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
Let's see if this gets us to pass.
Yep.
That's funny. So Twitch AutoMod didn't like the word bang. Yeah, so it turned out that the continue is equivalent. If it were just to get rid of the bang, then I would say that that's not worth it. But here we actually want to break out, and so it turns out that this is not only what we want, but gets rid of the bang. A little over aggressive auto mod. So how we doing? Mike, are you there or did you freeze? Oh, we lost Mike. So let's see. Let me see where. Yeah. Luckily, we don't have the cold weather that here in the Bay Area that some people are experiencing. It's actually, we're almost at time anyway, but let's see if we can get him back to say goodbye. So, where is it? So Dudeman sort of jokingly asked about post pair. There obviously is the post make your, get to green, right? That is the typical refactoring that people think of in the TDD process. And so even though if you look at like sort of the standard TDD thing, which is, red, green refactor, you definitely don't have to sort of, so if you end with a refactor, you're refactoring what you've done. And then you can also look at it as this is the first thing I do in order to get to the next step. And he's back, although muted.
Yeah, I didn't want to cough into your ear while I was.
Oh, thanks.
Uh,
I'll give you a quick update, BDSL. This is an app that Mike wanted to create. And so instead of using his spreadsheet that we've seen to search for songs that have a certain theme, we want to have an app that does that. All right. So when you froze from our point of view, we were just looking at so all the tests pass. Is that true?
yes. Let me double check.
And do we feel we need to write another test for 2 songs? Or do we feel like we've covered it sufficiently?
gut feeling is we covered it, but let me think about it a little bit more.
Because we've got a test that has all 4 themes. We have a test that catches just 1 theme. I feel like we can also inspect the code and say, "This is general enough for what we need." I think we can commit and call it done, at least for parsing a single line.
Right.
So I think the thing we added was we can now handle uh, some variant number of themes.
Ship it.
Yep. Should we check back with our Jira and see where we're at?
Sounds good.
Since we're pretty much good timing, we got it completed.
Let's see. Jira, my Jira 48, be a bulk load. This is actually
Yeah,
TSV.
right. So I think we haven't handled bulk load yet, but we have handled what would probably be considered a sub task of the bulk load and a subtask of doing one line. We've done the one line.
Yeah.
So Astor brings up a really interesting point. In our tests, we don't actually have a test. So Astrid mentions we should probably document the assumption that there are no gaps in theme columns. I
Mm,
would say that's a missing test. So I don't like to document things if I can write a test that basically documents it. So I don't know if you have time to write one more test, because I know
sure.
we
I could go for a bit more. I've got energy and
okay.
I don't have
Then
another commitment.
let's write a test that documents this. Let's basically create uh, a string where it has a theme, then a blank, and then another theme, and that we don't see that other theme. Sorry. So that would document that we bail out as soon as we hit a blank. And so we can say something like, stop parsing themes when we hit a blank theme. Yeah.
I'm gonna just grab the whole thing.
Yeah. So BDSL's question, I think, I don't know if you heard us earlier, but basically we're talking about exactly that. It's like, especially for tab-delimited, like it was literally one line of code to do tab-delimited. The comma delimited was a little bit more work, and that's why we initially pulled a parser off the shelf, because if you have embedded commas inside of the cell. But even there, we were considering if we were going to move forward with that, we'd actually just copy and paste that, or just use, ChatGPT generated code. But literally, like it's dot split. So so it's like there's no reason to have a library for that. If there was something like, we were pulling in an Excel spreadsheet, which requires deep understanding of the file format, that we'd probably pull in a library for. Yeah. So if we basically been doing mostly the happy case scenarios. Here is not necessarily a sad case, but more, this is the behavior that if you have a blank column, we're going to stop scanning your themes. And so documenting that as a test. And then we will have, if you basically have, I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with the data. I'm not sure what we might encounter in terms of a malformed column. Again, with tab-delimited, it actually gets a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about embedded stuff. So, yeah, I don't know what the negative cases are. We'll probably find that out next time.
Yeah. So I
All
added
right,
skip
switching.
team
Yep.
to,
Okay.
I believe, the fourth column. Let's see, that's the first column, second, third, fourth. So I put it in the fourth,
Okay.
assuming that's only one tab here. Yep.
I'd probably use the word ignored instead of skipped.
Ignoble? No, ignored.
Yes, an ignoble theme.
So this would still have the same assert as the previous test.
Yes. Yes.
And given the way the code's written, it should,
This should just work.
yeah.
It does.
Sweet. Hey, we did some self-documenting code. Or
So here's a
self-documenting
case
test.
where 99 times out of 100, I want to see a test fail before I see it pass. Here, I don't know. I don't feel like I need that. But what's nice is now we have documented this. The test name basically says we stop parsing themes. Maybe we'll, I say stop adding whatever. But this basically points out that we won't have multiple themes if you've got a blank. And this is my preference. If I can get around documenting something with some kind of comment by instead writing an additional test, that's going to be my desire. Because then you've got the typical benefits of an actual test that's actual code. Where if we do unintentionally change this behavior, like if we actually, let's do this. Let's comment out 26 through 28
On
the bottom. Actually, could just comment out line 27. And let's run our test. We expect this test to fail and probably maybe the other ones that has a bunch of blanks, but both should fail. So we've seen both fail. This one should fail because it has the ignored theme in it. So this is how so sometimes I'll change a test to make it fail, and sometimes I'll sort of manually mutate the code to make it fail. And so this proves that it's doing what we expect it to doing. And sometimes it takes a little bit of thought how to express something that is some kind of constraint or check or something like that into a test. But I think this was actually a really good one.
and what do you think about your normal usage pattern for JavaDocs is mostly don't use unless something like being used by customers?
I so it depends on who's the consumer of it. If I'm writing a library, that's a totally different situation. Because I'm documenting how to use the library. I'll also want tests, of course. But there I'm looking at it, it's like somebody's calling this method. I want to have good docs right there because they're going to hit F1 or whatever to bring up the JavaDoc. For other places, I would only be documenting what I typically document with comments, which is the why, not the what or the how.
Yeah. Because it seems like the JavaDoc thing can, or not seems like, I've seen it where it's overused,
Yeah,
where there's this huge amount of effort writing JavaDocs, which
yeah,
A, very quickly become out of date,
yep,
and B, don't provide a value add. Because
yeah.
you're
And sometimes just
spending
having a lot
dollars
of
on nothing.
just having a lot of stuff in there, especially because it can go out of date. But also a lot of times you just don't need it. So yeah. And hey, Tukes, we're actually going to be ending soon, but nice to see you.
How far can you go as far as
Oh,
extending?
totally up to you.
I could probably do another 45. I could even take it to 1 hour time if you want.
Let's go to 12:30.
Sounds good.
And then because I think
12
that'll
minutes.
probably be good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Does JavaDoc populate hover text and idea? Yes, except I have that turned off because it annoys. I really heavily dislike mouse hovering, and I think it's actually a problem in ensemble pairing situations. Is since you don't have direct control over where the mouse cursor is as the person who's driving, as the person who's navigating, it can actually be really annoying. It's like, can you move the mouse? No, now can you move the mouse again? Because it starts covering up stuff that you might want to see. So I much prefer basically hitting a key to bring up the JavaDoc, and the key to hit is generally F1, which is Control Q for some reason on Windows Linux. I don't know why it's not. F1 is like the worldwide global key for help. It has been that way since function keys came about, at least as far as I know. And why it's Control Q. The only thing I can guess is that Windows perhaps is intercepting F1 for something else. I don't know.
No,
What
I
happens if
just
you hit
clicked
F1?
F1. I did. It gave me help.
Oh,
It
that's
popped this
interesting.
up.
So is it wait, did it pop that up?
Yeah.
So that's help on that's not what it does on the Mac. On the Mac, what it does is it's a control. If you hit Control Q, that's what it does on the Mac. Which basically brings up, if there was JavaDoc for this, it would bring that up as well. So I guess F1 is truly the global key for help, but it brings up the help for the application and not the help for the thing you're on. I guess that's acceptable. So Control Q is the thing that would bring up JavaDoc for a method, if there were any. So if you click on like, where is it? In our code on the dot is empty at the bottom, and you hit Control Q, that's the JavaDoc for that.
While you were talking, I was playing around with changing the name of this test. Stop adding themes when first.
How about when hit first blank theme? So drop the at and reverse the hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, there's a little bit of documentation in the sense that it's not something that is going to break if we change behavior, which is the name of the test method. So that's kind of the only place where you could sort of say, well, that's really just text, right? Nobody else cares about what that text says other than humans. But we do have the tests that the content of the test that's testing that.
And that'd be true for all tests because it's the human readable name.
Exactly.
And if you change the test to no longer behave like that human readable name, well, that's part of the thing about tests, right? Is you got to keep checking, is that name still good?
Yeah. Let's do a commit since we added a test. And it does pass, right? Because we broke it and we changed it back.
Pretty sure I ran it.
Yes. Yep. There is also a setting that you can select in your commit dialog to basically say run tests. So if all the way at the bottom right of that dialog, there's a little gear. And if you click that, you can click on run tests, and then you can choose which configuration. And we would choose the IO free. You might choose the all, but that might be annoying if you're doing frequent commits.
Right.
But we could do that and just see what it looks like. I have a feeling this is going to fail, so let's see what happens.
We haven't run all tests in a while.
Yeah, we haven't run all tests in a while.
Yeah. Just the same commit text as last time?
No, let's say added test to document. stop parsing themes when we hit a blank. Yep, and let's commit. So that runs. Does it? Oh, that's interesting. It does the commit first and then runs all the
And runs a
tests.
test. That's weird.
That's not what I would have expected. That kind of like, what the heck?
How is that helpful?
I want to run before you actually commit.
Yeah. You want to be more like a CI kind of thing.
That's a bummer.
Interesting.
Because clearly I'd never used this feature before, and now I'm like, that's not really useful. It's like, oh great, I just committed something that's broken. I wonder if there's some setting somewhere that changes that, but I'm gonna run. It's really
It's not a failed test. It's actually it's just a disabled test.
Yes, but it ran it.
After, which is
It did
weird.
run it after, right?
Yes.
Like, all right. Well,
Well,
I'll
it
have to double
seemed
check on
like
that
it.
because it seemed like it, but maybe it's just the status was actually incorrect. We'll have to play around with that because everything else in that dialog is before commit. So I'd be kind of surprised if it actually
But it let the
let it
commit
let
go
it.
through, even though it was quote a
Well, it's
failed
unclear
test.
when it actually finished the commit.
Hmm.
So but anyway. So
Leave it.
yeah, let's leave it.
Okay.
So where are we in? Let's check our Jira. Where are we in Jira? So I think 57 we can say is done.
Multi-line.
Yeah,
Or
so I think something
yeah.
multi-line. Which one do we want? Because there's the skip the headers, and then there's the actually process multiple songs. So let's write both those down so we remember what they are. Yeah. Is there anything else? I think that's it.
I think
Once
so.
we
I
have
just
multiple songs and header rows, then the bulk load is all we need. We will need the actual UI aspect of it, which is the time leaf template and the controller.
which I
don't know if
guess
you
would
want
be
to put
this
that.
part down here.
Yeah, I think that's under UI.
So this could go.
Yeah.
And now this brainstorm. Is this a value?
I think we can get rid of all of that because we're no longer doing CSV anyway, and therefore all the double quote stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As hard as it is to delete stuff.
Actually, I need to do one thing.
It's in the commit history.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So that's what might be some. So that's the kind of comment that you'd want somewhere, because that would not be at all obvious why we did that, unless you watch the video.
I think we can still delete this.
Yes.
It's old, but not particularly helpful at the moment.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So which
Multiple songs first?
Sure.
It feels more satisfying, but that's just me.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. I don't know. Write a test.
Is there anything else we can do? No,
No.
we write a test. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What have we called the other test so far? I guess parse multiple songs. I'm
So one
still
thing,
questioning
yeah.
using the word
So,
parse.
oh, is there another word you'd prefer
Well,
that would be more business friendly?
yeah, I'm just wondering.
This gets back to that question of, does the business care about CSV versus TSV? It's like, yes,
Right.
they do. Do they understand what the word parse is?
Or would load multiple songs be sufficient? But it's not really loading them. This is
It's not
really,
really.
yeah. I'm sticking with parse unless you come with
I
something.
can't think of a better a better term.
And then you were going to say something. I think I interrupted you.
So one thing I was going to say is, can we go to the disable test
Oh, yeah, yeah.
in the song service test? Um, does this pass?
What does it do? It's been so long. Let's see.
I don't know, but we should check.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's
Well,
not because it's got all that.
well, first of all,
Well,
it's
yeah, yeah.
wrong. The data is wrong. Um, let's fix the data.
So, okay, beat that. Then can
You
you
can
insert?
do
Oh, there we go.
no, you can I would not do that. I would do a \t.
Ah, make it more self-documenting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Trying to see if we're
feel
missing
like,
something else.
yeah, so the data, we had
Oh,
that extra column
there's oh, there's that right. There's an extra column in
in the
between. Right, where was that again? What was the artist song title release type? We're skipping, which is column 3. So that's between title and themes.
we'll just go to the other test. What do we have there? We have notes is the one we skip over. Right then,
Notes. We also skip over.
and then we basically have the
Oh, wait a second.
contributor column, but we skip over that.
Right, we're skipping over release type. We're also skipping over this, but this one.
We're not skipping over release type. It's in the song
Oh, right,
right
right,
there.
right, right. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
skipping over notes.
So the only thing we're skipping over is notes, and then we just stop at the end of themes. So anything after that we ignore.
Should we call this skip notes for now?
Sure.
Would that help?
Yeah.
I don't think it'll change the test since we're not
Shouldn't.
checking it. And then the same up here. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
Well,
Oh, that's
no,
the
no,
other
go ahead.
test.
That's the other test. That's fine.
That's the other test.
I was going to say we undisabled it, so I expected that one to
Right.
fail.
Yeah, yeah. And skipped there.
So Tux asks about collections, and so Tux notes that we're declaring variables as list, even though we're using array list underneath. So that's the difference between the interface list and the concrete implementation array list. And in general, what you want to do, and this is general, not just collections, but in general, you want to use the most general interface or class type that you can when you're declaring variables. Because unless you need something specific from that more concrete type, like you're doing something very specific to an array list, you want to treat it as this most generic type so you actually don't rely on some of those details. So in general, and this is idiomatic Java, and others is the Java that most people will write, is you use the interface type for collection. So you use map, not hash map, as your declaration type. So the key thing to understand is there's two things, right, on that line that at the bottom there that Mike is highlighting. There's two parts to that. There is The first part, list of string themes, that is the declaration. What is the type of the variable themes? Then there is the initialization or instantiation of what are we storing in that variable, and that's the new array list. So those are two parts, declaration, right? The first part of the declaration, what is the type of the variable, which defines how I'll be able to use it later. And then there's what are we actually starting it off to be, which is an empty array list. And so the declaration, you always want to be as general as possible. And that's just good idiomatic Java to follow. So it's a really good question because I see a lot of folks who are just starting to learn Java will declare this as an array list, and there's no need for that. You can do it. It's fine. It's just the idiomatic and preferred way to do it is to treat it as much generic type. All right. So we added the skip notes. So let's go
failing
back to our
tests.
failing
Yeah,
tests. Yeah, because I think
this one.
there's some. So we wanted to add in the skip notes here as well into our data.
Right. So skip notes. Where was
It's
it
right before
again?
the
It was
theme.
right before theme. I don't know why I copied and pasted it. That was silly. You know how you do stuff and you're like, why did I
Yeah,
do that?
like why did I do that all the time?
If we do that, is that going to make it pass? Mm-hmm.
Well, it won't break the same way it did before, where we didn't have enough columns.
Right. Feels like
So
it'll still fail.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Index 6 out of bounds for length 6. Are we missing a column in our input?
Let's see. Well, technically we're expecting it to go up to 9 columns.
Ooh. Um,
So this test was written before.
so I know what's happening. So there is an assumption that if there are that there will always be the extra theme columns as blank.
Right.
But here we only had the first theme column and nothing after that. So the question is this valid input? And I think this is not valid input. We might want to protect against this, but this is not typical valid input. Right? This would be if you selected the column only through theme 1.
Right.
But typically you're going to select all the way to theme 4, so you will always have blank columns for 2 through 4.
At least for me, if we get to the point where we allow other people to contribute, then we might want to give some more flexibility. But
So
again, that's a Yagni versus.
well, I think we should have and we don't necessarily have to write it, but I think we should note in our in Jira write some tests for at least write a test for only one theme column. And maybe more generally, what if there just aren't enough columns? So Ashley mentioned the malformed column. So the columns themselves inside the columns aren't malformed, but yes, the entire set of columns might be malformed, mainly in that you don't have enough. So I don't know if I'd call that malformed, but definitely not having enough columns will currently cause our code to fail.
So make this one pass by putting in some.
So if we're going to have correct, if we're going to say that this is the data we pass and we want to basically have a couple of basically 3 extra tabs. Yeah.
See what it does. Interesting. is that enough columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, wait a second.
Well, we certainly have at least 6, so I'm curious why it thinks there aren't enough.
Ooh, what's this? Oh, wait a second. It's here. What does this method do?
It just calls the parse that we just wrote.
Right.
I mean, if we look at the stack trace, it's failing on parse themes, but that seems strange. Yeah, we have more than 6 columns. We have more than 7 columns. We actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, there's certainly more than that. I wonder what's going on there.
I know.
Um,
Do you think split has an unusual behavior when it's in a tab with nothing? Like, what does it
can we
do?
yeah, so the question, yeah, so I think the question is, and this is what BDS mentioned, is what does a blank column mean? Can we look at the actual source in Sublime, whatever you had in your text file? What does that
Oh,
actually
sure.
look like? Um,
Meaning one with only one theme.
yeah, so what is it?
But this one.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
But those are just consecutive tabs, right?
Right.
So it's not like there's a space in between the 2 tabs.
No, there isn't.
Um, I wonder if
I'm curious what this looks like.
so let's write a test, or let's modify one of our existing TSV parser tests to use the \t instead of the actual tab character.
Ah,
So like
anyone?
uh, let's pick one of the earlier ones that has all, yeah. So let's take that one. So I was going to suggest duplicate it first
Oh,
uh, and then comment it out and then replace it with tabs.
all of them?
Yep.
Okay.
So actually, this one will probably be fine because we don't have blank columns. Maybe this was the wrong one to select. So let's back off on this one because we actually want one that has the blanks. So like the next one is probably better. Yeah.
This one on 24?
Yeah.
Okay.
Future reference, Control D is duplicate current line.
Oh, yeah, I always forget about that one. Get to use my Alt J today.
Ooh, look at you.
There we go. Okay.
So we expect the same behavior. So let's see. Although this one does have the don't care contributor at the end. Let's take that
Not
off.
okay. It looks like it failed with the same. Oh, wait a
So
second.
this
No, it's a
test,
different test.
this
Then
test
test
passed.
passed.
Let's take out the don't care contributor and see what happens. Interesting. So it looks like split is bailing out if the rest of the row is blank. That doesn't seem right.
Trailing. Look right here.
Oh.
Is there a way to say don't do that?
So do we call the other split methods? Let's call the other split method. So click on, no, sorry, bring up the help again.
Alt P.
Control Q.
Right.
And then click on the split highlighted in the JavaDoc there, inside the paragraph.
Oh.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, because that one will point to the 2-argument split. So this 4-argument takes a limit. So if limit is positive, then the pattern will be applied at most limit -1. Yeah, so if we specify the limit explicitly, it will stop there. It's only when it's 0, which is the default, does it ignore blanks. So we can call the split with, what is it, 9, 10, whatever it is. So let's try 10. Well, I guess 9
right.
is probably fine too, but we can do 10. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that fixed everything. Now let's try 9.
9 will probably work too because we're never touching that last column. Oh, interesting.
No.
So
Because we're not, even though we're not touching it, it's going to split the
oh,
whole thing.
interesting. So basically,
It doesn't know we're usage, right? It's just splitting the whole thing. It doesn't know that we're not accessing.
no, but look at the actual. It's actually tacking on the contributor.
Oh, whoa.
So it's like it basically stopped parsing at that point and basically took the rest of the string as that last column.
Ooh.
Which is
Weird.
interesting. Not what I would have expected from that. It's basically saying as soon as you've hit 9 delimiters, everything else, the last one is in the last column. And that's why we got theme 4 with an embedded tab Rizzi.
Right.
Yes, yeah. So the JavaDoc says exactly that, which is why this is what you want in your JavaDoc. But that's fine. We've got tests to cover this, so we can just change it back to 10 and we should be okay. And so this was really interesting because technically we had input that we wouldn't normally have, but if you selected fewer columns or you didn't select the contributor column because you thought, oh, I don't need that, it would have broken. But now I think we can revert the test up there on 25. And let's make sure it still passes. All right, and then we can go back to our song service test. Do we want to represent the contributor column here? Or do we want to just leave it as is?
By putting in contributor here?
Yeah, yeah.
Bulk add songs using TSV. And this one's only checking one theme, which is fine.
Right. Contribot.
Contributor. And that's it. We're not
using it. Right. So that should still pass.
Yeah. And it does.
Yeah. So let's commit. Because we actually fix a potential problem, but also now our song service test now passes.
Good enough?
Yep.
All right, it's running the test again.
All right, all tests pass.
Cool.
So Tooth asks about the difference between the primitive int and the integer wrapper, and why collections only take wrapper classes. And the reason why is generics. So collections are all about storing and being defined by the generics, the things that they can hold. And generics can currently not be applied to primitives. So you can't say list of just int. At someday that will work, maybe. That's what value, the whole idea of value classes that's being worked on. But primitives at the beginning of Java's existence were always separate from objects because of performance issues. Remember, this was the early 90s. So performance was an issue for not treating everything as an object. And so there is a top type for classes. It's called object. But primitives are not objects. Primitives have always been separate things. And so int is not an object. Float is not an object, unless you're talking about the uppercase float, which is an object. And so in order to store and support storing integers and floats in collections, they had to create wrappers for them. Yeah, so there are types. The primitive types are not class types and therefore do not have object as its parent. This will hopefully change. I am looking forward to it. I expect that maybe in the next couple of years we will have something like that.
And they probably did that originally. I mean, originally you'd think, well, make it all object oriented out of the gate. But I imagine the reason they did it early on was the performance reason you were
Right,
talking
right.
about.
So performance and memory. So an object version of an int takes up more space than the primitive int. Because the primitive int is what? 4 bytes? Right? 4 bytes? Longs are 8. So 4 bytes, that's it, 4 bytes. An object, though, has other information associated with it, the object header, and so we'll at least have a few extra bytes. I think might even be 4 more. And so that means you basically double the size of usage of your primitive types if you got lots of those. And remember, 1993, we did not have gigabytes of RAM. 1993, when Java was being developed. So both performance and memory, which is kind of performance, were the main issues why they decided explicitly, unlike languages that came before, like Smalltalk, they decided explicitly, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to have primitives be their own thing, completely separate. If they, if you could go back in time and change that, then maybe Java wouldn't have been as popular. Who knows? But it is what it is, and Java needs to be backwards compatible, and so that's where we are. So primitives are their own thing. They are not objects. They are not stored as object. They are not referenced as objects. And so therefore, the only way to store them in collection classes that expect objects is to wrap them inside of an object. All right. Process multiple songs. So do we want to change our outer test and start there?
Sure.
I almost wonder if that's even worth it, since it's, but it does store it in the repository, so we could start here, or we could start directly on the. Let's actually, I don't know. I think we could just do an inner test,
Seems like it to me.
which is what we were starting to do when we got interrupted. So I think you already have a blank test.
Yeah. There we go.
Yep. So let's do it. Let's why don't you take actual copy and paste from your Sublime editor?
and grab something without, this is an interesting one with quotes in it. I
Sure.
don't know if we want to do that today, right now. It seems like a corner case we can deal with later.
All right, let's grab those.
Actually, I'm gonna grab these three.
All right.
No, that's got quotes. Let's just grab those two. So now for this one, we will want multi-line, right?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, and then just delete the blank line.
Like I was trying to think, why is that blank line coming in?
Because you copied a new line at the end.
Yeah.
And then put a semicolon at the end of that one. And we got our songs. The rest of it is, yeah, it's pretty much the same. That'll be close.
Multiple songs though.
Yeah.
So, oh, we would do, this is an awfully long line. So it'd be something like
Yeah.
that. I'm not sure I got enough the right parens.
What I would do is stick a comma, go ahead and push the close paren and semicolon on a new line. And then duplicate that line using a Control D. And now put a comma at the end of 67. And that's our baseline. And then we just got to make it match. So to ask why the exception for string, I'm not sure what you mean. Are you talking about the exception at the end of the test method or something else? And yeah, so arrays are this weird thing. Arrays can hold primitive types. Collection classes cannot. They must hold objects. But arrays, because they're a very different kind of thing, can basically hold anything. They can either hold objects or hold primitives. Yeah, so strings are also weird because they are objects. But they're built-in objects, unlike some of the other ones that actually require implementation. String is automatically imported into your code, unlike other things we have to explicitly import it. So strings are objects. They're very special. They get a lot of attention, but they are objects. And that's different from some other languages like C#, where strings are sort of, in a sense, primitives, but C# has diverged greatly.
I gotta use Control W more frequently. There we go. Much easier. Think I got it. I don't know if you probably weren't tracking because you were talking.
So you've got some don't care stuff that isn't present in your input. Do you want to put those into the input, or do you want to leave them blank?
Let's see. What? Yeah, blank, right? Because it'll just be empty.
I think we can do
strings.
blank. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That should fail.
That should certainly fail. The question is, how is it going to fail? I think we're just processing the first one. So we should get the first one and just be missing the second one.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, you're running the song service test. We want to run.
Scheiße.
We want to run
How did that
tests.
change? That's weird. Not sure how that happened. So yep, we got the first one and missing the second one.
All right. I think that's a great place to stop.
A good breadcrumb.
Yes.
And we got the breadcrumb here as well. Let's commit though. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
My partner speaks German, so I have a few that come through now and then.
All right, so let's commit saying failing on multiple songs. And that's it.
Cool.
All right. Another good pairing session, making progress. We got the next steps should be easier. So we'll get the multiple songs and then we can start maybe hooking it up to the UI.
Sounds great.
So I'm not sure if we don't have a specific date and time planned for the next episode. So you'll want to, as always, follow and or subscribe. That will help you. But ideally, join the Discord. Go into the roles channel, click on Code Stream Alert, and you can be notified. Usually I try to give it as much advance notice as I have for either pairing streams or solo streams. So that's your best bet. And reminder, book club. If you're interested, come join the Discord and find out and vote on the book. Yep. And that's it. So thanks, folks. Thanks for hanging out on a Sunday, and we'll see you next time.